Thanks everyone for tuning in. I believe, hopefully you just saw my lovely colleague Anna. We're both part of a team here in Dublin solely and fully dedicated to UX. And that puts us in a very unique place because we actually get to spot trends fairly early as we get to speak to users and to advertisers like yourself on a daily basis. So we kind of like have our ear on the streets, if you want so. And one of those trends that have been coming up for quite a while now is sustainability. So actually, if you want to take a look with me here onto the Google Trends for sustainable fashions graph, you can actually see that it has been peaking ever since 2018 with another big spike in 2020, most likely accelerated by COVID. So that's the user side of things. As I said, we also get to talk to advertisers a lot, and it has been on your mind as well for a while. So basically what we've been hearing for a while now is how can we actually communicate better about our sustainability efforts without basically hindering the user experience and without being accused of greenwashing. So that for us was a good cue to actually start one of our biggest research projects ever. If you could skip to the next slide, please. Sorry, it was a bit fast here. To one of our biggest research projects ever that we started in our team, which basically consisted of 3 phases. So what we did, we started out with semi-structured interviews throughout quite a wide demographic and wanted to get a first grasp in those interviews of what are users actually experiencing, what kind of challenges are they experiencing when it comes to sustainability. Then we took those challenges, sorry if we can go back a slide, and then we took those challenges and looked in a second phase, kind of like added on some extra questions to get a deeper understanding in a survey that we send out to multiple users. And then took all of those challenges, numbers, did a bit of data crunching, and came together as a team and did an ideation exercise where we tried to come up with UX design solutions for those sustainability challenges that we've been hearing from our users. So hopefully you're wondering now, what are those challenges? You can basically boil them down to 3 key themes, which are users want brands to communicate efficiently. They want brands to educate them, which is basically around helping your users making the right purchase decision. And the third one is you need to be transparent when it comes to sustainability, which is a key factor in not being accused of greenwashing. And that's fairly important, as we all know. So let's have a look at some of those recommendations. I want to let you know, like, we did not reinvent the wheel here. This is not rocket science, but I would like to challenge you today to check if you have those recommendations in place already on your website or maybe even apps. And if not, is there a way to get them implemented in a timely manner, hopefully? So first up, let's have a look at what our users had to say about communication. So a big part, as I mentioned already, about communication is building trust. And what we've been hearing a lot in our user interviews, which is nicely captured in this quote as well, is that users are looking for some kind of certification from a higher body, shows some kind of like valued proof that you're doing the right thing. And when we looked at our quantitative data, then we saw the same thing. So when we asked, what did you recently notice when you looked for sustainability on product detail pages, what was most helpful? A close second there was those labels. We gave them a couple of options there as well, but you can see it's a very close second, like almost 60% saying this is important to us. So basically, it comes as no surprise if you look at our first recommendation. On your mobile site, you should have some kind of trusted label, which is a very easy way to communicate a lot of information onto a small space, which is important on mobile. Another thing is it's very important to have this in the above the fold, because everything that's important on mobile kind of needs to happen in the above the fold. I know that's very prime real estate, but it is important to create trust, and trust if you create trust for your brand, that's one of the most important values that you can have. Another thing is, ideally, you want to have those labels be clickable or touchable on mobile and to link to more information. So again, fairly easy, but high impact here for rather low cost, fairly easy to implement. So moving on now, if we look at education, again, it's not really about educating your users, but more like to help them to make the right decision. And the most important decision in purchasing, obviously, is ordering the right thing. For two reasons, right? Because it's important for the environment. You don't want to ship stuff back and forward. And it's important for your business because returns are increasingly expensive. So that's great if you can minimize those. And as we can see in our next quote, it's very important for your users, particularly like that quote where someone said that they're religious on sizing charts, which is strong in itself, right? So they really measure themselves every time they were saying. And also, if you look at the data again, you can see that we wanted to know, is it a good idea actually to either recommend a size for your users or even have them at least have them measure it? And is that useful? And again, if you look at what most people say, it's somewhat useful. A lot of people also said it's very helpful. So again, next recommendation, then quite obviously would be on reducing and minimizing returns. So what you can do there is, you can see it on the left side. If you have a user logged in, hopefully, and you heard a little bit about earlier about like getting people to use or getting to your users to log in, and they already have a purchase, it is very helpful if you somehow recommend what size might be the best fit for them. And we think that this option should actually trump the sizing chart. So if you have that, that should be your priority one. Obviously, if you don't have that data and you don't have your users logged in, then another good idea would be the sizing chart. And as you can see in our mockups here, again, this should be within the prime real estate, ideally just under the most important thing, which is probably the product detail picture, but make it very easy for people or for users to find that and to use that feature. Perfect. So let's have a look at the last one, which is about transparency. And we have a rather lengthy quote here, but I think it captures the idea of transparency from a user's point of view quite nicely, because this person here said that they don't want to be bothered looking for those information about sustainability and your company somewhere else. They really value when you, quote unquote, put yourselves out there. So the users are saying, be brave and communicate about the things that you do on your own assets. They don't want to go out and look for that data. So if you look at the next chart there, we also wanted to kind of understand, what do users mean by communicate about it? Is it just about saying that you do it, or is it more about giving them details? And I mean, obviously it doesn't come as a surprise that people rather want to see those real life examples instead of just saying that you're doing it. And then we also kind of wanted to understand on like, where should you do this? Is this something for a newsletter, or is this something you really need to have on your mobile assets? And we can see that in our next pie charts very clearly, that this seems to be information that is very crucial when people are already in like a very direct purchase journey. This is where this information is important, because they either want to see it on your website or on your social media. So again, the last recommendation here would really be to have a dedicated page where you communicate about your sustainability efforts. And if we have a look at the next slide and the mockup, we can see that the important thing here is probably threefold. You kind of want to be sure and make sure on mobile that the content is formatted for mobile. So avoid those lengthy text blocks, rather work with bullet points and give your users the key information so they can skim all of that, because we all know ourselves that our attention span is growing shorter and shorter, especially on mobile. Another good thing is, if you have something like that, use a video, which is just an easy way to convey a lot of good information on a small space in a very interactive manner. And then again, just have that dedicated space in the end, and make sure users can find it, because as we heard earlier, they don't want to spend time looking for it. Put yourselves out there if you can, so to say. So with that, thank you very much. Hopefully I could pique your interest here a little bit, and I want to leave you with two next steps. So one thing you could do, if you already have a dedicated Google point of contact, please reach out to them. We have way more recommendations like this. Actually, we have a whole playbook, so to say, and we're doing customized workshops for our advertisers. So if you have that contact, please reach out, let them know that you'd be interested in a UX sustainability workshop, and we can get in touch. The second alternative here, you can see a link on the screen as well, is you could reach out to one of our certified partners. This will bring you to a website, and you'll hopefully find a good partner there in your area. If you're now wondering what to do, I think the next talk might just be the right thing for you, because I think we're going to hear more about when to turn to partners. But with that, I want to say thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you very much for your time, and over to you, Ruben.